G'day guys and welcome to a review for Randwick on the 19th of August. Exciting day. Rail was out 3 metres and a 60km/h tailwind up the straight. Did threaten to sort of hurt the leaders over the back, but it looked like it was completely irrelevant as when you got down the running, the wind was just blowing them home so hard it was very difficult to run on. There were quite a few slow tempos. I think that was a product of people worried about headwinds, so therefore everyone sort of changed their tactics to lead, and those who got up there were really trying not to run along with that tempo. But in saying that, it's funny, the two probably upset, well, the winner in the last is probably the clearest victory, and the biggest upset's probably Sweet Redemption, who was ridden perfectly to the bias, and they were probably the two most solid tempos of the day. So, well, actually the last is still probably a slowish tempo, but only seems to see how quick she's gone. But just getting out and getting a loose lead in the straight with that wind was just a huge advantage. It was just so difficult to run on. Getting into it, Formality, first race of the day. Really slow tempo here, 3 clear chances in betting, and basically they've cleared out from the other two. Obviously only beaten 3 and 6 the other two runners, but still comprehensively beaten. I thought Formality was solid. Elise's had its chance, but outside the lead is obviously not the greatest place to be, and I thought Champagne Cuddles probably should have won the race. This is kind of why, in my opinion, I think it really had its chance, even though she sort of went down there. I thought that she had a chance clearly to go behind the leader here, and well, she obviously did, because the winner's come from drawn outside her and drops in underneath her. This horse was first up basically at 1200 metres. It only raced over 1000 metres last time. It was a fairly shortish break, but still first up and never seen 1200 metres before. I thought it was a much better option to sit in, especially with the projected wins in behind it. You can see the size difference in her. She's just a tiny horse, and to relax back off these horses and give them a bigger start than she otherwise would have had to, like she would have been right under the neck of Elise here and spending probably less petrol, because she seems to have just got a little bit keen and had to be restrained back there, so that's a bit of a waste of energy for mine. One more teaspoon's obviously got up underneath. And then I thought the second mistake was exposing this horse so early. Could have dragged on the back of Elise for a lot longer and really saved her sprint up for late when she's come out when they're right at their top. Had to try and out sprint them, and just really a strong effort to get as close as she did. I thought over the 1200 you could see how small she is. Look at the little legs going. But the other two, you know, on type are much better athletes, but she's got the heart, and look at her run away from him after the line. So the winner is entitled to get a little bit tired. A really strong effort. I think Elise, as nice a horse as she is, there's a couple of chinks to her, and I thought she was clearly the weakest late, considering she had a run under her belt. You know, it wasn't a really taxing run the other day. It was a slow tempo, and she finished off nicely, and then she has had to sit outside the leader there, so I'm not looking to be too negative on her, and possibly ridden with a sit she'll be much more effective. But I thought the run of the race was Champagne Cuddles, considering the grade rise 1200 metres and a ride that didn't give her every possible chance for mine. And then Formality is also run well, clearly superior. You know, a nice effort from One More Honey. She's returned well, and Villa Carlotta just totally unsuited there in that grade. First up, ripping home off a slow tempo. Race 2, won't spend much time on this. Evenish tempo, a little bit soft. Time average, 2 horses clear out. The only thing probably worth looking at is what happens here. There was a lot of noise about Bowman's ride. You can see that the horse is kind of going so slow he can barely hold it. Has to chime in as they're all one pace in front of him. Clearly looks like he's got all of the main dangers in the race beaten, and you can understand why he's decided to push the button so early. You can see here he's still vigorous, without using the whip. Visibly, he's looking at the screen, you can see that horse coming, and even though he probably doesn't ride it out as hard as you've ever seen, I'm not sure that it changes the result. He would have had to absolutely whop it the whole way, I think, and the winners just basically, carted off his back and got him on the line. I probably think if they went another 100 metres, Sayed might come back and beat it, but it's just a funny race. It's a smelly race. Get on the Grange is sat outside the leader and beaten a long way. Mormo, it's basically not taken part, beaten a long way. It was a big step down in form for Sayed off its last run, but a totally different run race where they went quick and it was a true staying test. This time it wasn't, and that wind's blown them home. It's hard to understand the change in form for Orvray, considering it's basically gone back instead of forward this time and sat on the winner and beat it. So just a smelly race. I don't really like to spend too much time on these sort of races, and I'm not going to change here. Race 3, the Highway. I was really surprised by the heavy backing for the favourite here, Restar. I know the stable's expert at bringing these horses down, but its form looked very hollow, and that gate one always looked a bit of a smelly gate with horses that looked like being in front of it that were really long in the market and were always a big chance of stopping. That's kind of how it turned out. So if you were on a Restar unlucky, it was just, you'll never know. If it probably could have been in the finish, but I wasn't really taken by its finish, to be honest, anyway. Just a perfect ride on the winner for Bowman. The horse hates being inside runners, and he does a fantastic job here early in the race to make sure that he's in clear running. Probably gets a little bit lucky there when they come out, and that's all he needed to be exposed. He's not a horse that likes to be bottled up, and he likes to work into the race under his own steam, so it wasn't too big a disadvantage when he's flushed out here early. It usually would be. Last Try Wins obviously comes with him and runs second. Chidana back in here, pretty much every chance, battles on for third. It's a funny horse. Arestar's the one held up and knocked over through the middle. Gets out wide late and bats away to the line. Probably a little bit, to be fair, a little bit better than bats away to the line. It obviously should have finished much closer. It's silly to say it shouldn't have. I don't think it beats the winner, but that's just my opinion. The others in the race are very evenly graded. The run I didn't mind was this horse, Our Cubana. I think it's going well enough, and it probably was poorly suited here. Definitely not suited by a sprint home, and can pick up a race in similar grade straight away. It's ready to win. You see him through the line. He's not too bad. An evenly graded race. All those horses are going okay. The winner's just a little bit better than them for mine, and Arestar's a much younger horse with a decent prospects, but it's just a horse I struggle to find at this point. Race 4 coming through. A few mixed emotions here. I thought it was a 2-horse race on paper, and it's kind of the way it worked out, but things went a little bit differently to what I hoped. Very happy when Michael Walker takes the initiative to take the front up here. Sets a really slow tempo. Absolutely rips home. Only the second slowest tempo of the day behind Winx's race, and they've absolutely rushed home. I believe it was crazy time. Hang on, look it up. This is just the raw time from the website. Come home in 33.08 for a 1400 metre race. Obviously, I was dead keen on Life Less Ordinary, and I've got no reason to drop off it in the future. At the start, we'll see what happens here. So, Ins and Out was never going to press for the lead. Coming through jumps the best he ever has. I thought the leader was Maracaba. It's come out in its head, so it's back the back last. No one wants to lead, and he's got the balls to take the lead on it. And basically the race was over from this point. Obviously it gets pretty close late. Nothing attacks. Some funny rides out here. Petrosian, I don't know why they were trying to restrain with him, but that's the kind of race it was. And this run from Life Less Ordinary's, Winx was probably the run of the day. He was a clear second for mine. It's just a matter of what he does here, how he just keeps finding the line past horses that had fitness on him, and how he just keeps finding the line and runs through the line. And you'll watch, the winner's a very good horse. He's had a soft run, and this horse is savaging him through the line. He reminds me, I know he's had quite a few starts for another trainer, but he reminds me of a horse like like a Fiorente, he's obviously got to prove himself to that level. He's obviously had 20 starts before today, so it's a little bit different. He was a bit more lightly raced when he got here, Fiorente. But this horse can win a Metrop. I'm not going to say it can't win a Melbourne Cup if it runs the trip. I think it's a horse that can win over a mile on the way to winning, and then over 2,000. And it's a serious horse. The winners can improve physically. There's no doubt about that, which is good for him. He's got some nice upside, and those behind him, I think if Ebenos drops back in grade, it's flying. Probably just needs to drop back in grade and back to 1,200 metres. Francesco again, I thought was a bit negative early, and he's going well. And Maracaibar's the other one I think's definitely ready to win. Probably stepped up to a mile and a race where he can get closer to the speed. He looks to be back in some sort of solid form. From just summing that race up again, I think coming through, ridden with a sit, will be a better horse and can measure up to better grade, but I'm certain the second horse can. Race 5, solid tempo, but they rip home again, so which made it a soft tempo in reality. But time's very good, and speed, the time of the race very good. Dracaris comes from midfield here, and Adkins took the ride only the lightweight. It was a bit of a surprise when Gold Standards missed the kick quite significantly here and did look the leader on paper, and it kind of left these horses out here with a decision to drive forward and probably went a bit quicker than they anticipated simply because of that. This trapeze artist, he gets beaten quite a way, and his effort's okay considering he's had the big weight, 1,300 first up. He's had to lead him up into the wind from that start. Obviously it wasn't too bad down the running, and he's a bit soft late, but he can be forgiven. Sanction puts him away in the straight, so his effort's good. Ace Highs should have run a place, there's no doubt about that. Every chance obviously in running, but gets held up until in the mid stages. Good effort to get Gold Standard off the fence at a vital time after being in this position, and just a great effort up from maiden grade. And Dracaris, who's forced wide, had a bit of a fitness edge over and a bit of a better grounding than Gold Standard to get to this grade. Puts in a strong effort to beat it, and this horse back here is another one worth looking at. We'll have to have a look at this a few times. So firstly, the two leaders have done their job, the winner and second horse coming down the middle. All the momentum and just strong efforts. This is going to be a decent form race, I'd say. I wasn't a big rap on Dracaris before this, but it's shown me that he's better than I thought, and the second horse just fights its way all the way to the line. Toga Picta was absolutely restrained out at the start, so I'll show you the start. Just see him here just absolutely grabbing hold of it and pulling it out, so it can settle closer in a race if it draws a gate or finds a more suitable race over more distance. See here, he just canters up the back of them before having to sprint hard to hold on to him, and just looks to peak on his run just late there. So I'm not saying he's hidden, everyone will find him, but he's a horse that can win over further. I'm sure he's on the sort of a road to a derby similar to Sanctioned, and both of them off that run can definitely get somewhere there. I think Sanctioned will be suited out over further as well. Ace High in behind here just gets stuck in behind the slightly tiring horses and the favourite that's dropping out. The price of that favourite was just insane, I thought. Maybe the Siege of Quebec form line is what did it, but very, very strange price. And he just looks a horse that needs far more season before he takes on this sort of grade. You can see Ace High here running through the line. He's not a ridiculous sort of derby prospect at this stage. His win was very, very good at Kembla. He should have settled closer there, and his effort was very good. He's not a silly derby prospect either at this stage. David Payne can get a horse to that sort of race, he's shown in the past. So there's a few derby-ish horses looking for further. Toga Picta, Ace High Sanctioned, and Trapeze Artist can be forgiven first up with quite a few things against him. Winx's race, what do you say about her? There's not much to say. Absolutely ridiculously slow tempo. They go out about 15 lengths slow to the 600 metres and rip home 12 lengths quick, and she comes from this position, widest, no card into the race, and runs them down. $1.10 Justified. There's no other way that things, unless she missed it further, there's nothing worse that could have happened for her here. He's kept his head. he's just ridden her quiet, kept her breathing the whole way, and let her get through her gears. It's a ridiculous win. It's just a ridiculous win. There's just, they say that some, the mathematical equations at times you can't win from certain positions, and she overcomes them, and she's overcome this with ease. If you look at, he obviously gets desperate on her, but not really. She's still done it pretty easy for mine. It's insane how it's not as if she's beating tight horses. These are very, very, very smart horses that have had soft runs, and they're sprinting at their absolute top. This is a Group 1 winner Fox Play, suited by a slow tempo, has a dynamic turn of foot, and this horse has come from 6 lengths off her probably, or maybe even further, and put her away and run away from her first up from a break. It's very difficult to put into words, really. The third horse's battle on well, Ecuador, after having a really soft lead, and Red Excitement's returned very well. Just not suited by that absolute sit sprint nature. If they went a bit quicker, I think he would have run a place. The other runners back behind, you can't knock any of them really. Antonio Giuseppe, Inference, Harper's Choice, and Allergic, all not suited by that. Coming home in sub 33, so they're all pass marks, and not putting a line through any of them from a form perspective. Probably just using it as a glorified barrier trial for most of them when trying to do the form. Race 7. Sweet Redemption, probably one of the rides of the day here, I thought, just for when Adam Hieronymus takes off. I didn't like the horse at all, because I thought the horses around it would handle it no matter how the race was run. But he's just had the right configuration with a couple of horses that weren't a big threat around him. He took advantage of it by getting a gap on these horses back here. Euro Angel was slightly unlucky. I don't think it was anywhere near as tragedy beaten as many people say. It probably doesn't get held up for that couple of strides. It wins, but it also did have a bit of tempo in its favour and took some shortcuts. So it's hard to knock. Or I'm not saying she should have been a dominant winner considering what's happened. This is good from Hieronymus here that he's pinched this break. He's taken the sprint out of Rocket Commander, is it? And it's opposing Lass is fairly one-paced as well, so he's taken advantage of that. The first sprint horse that's had the right run is held up a bit here, but not completely lost all momentum. And it's hard to say without seeing the head on, but she looks to have clear running here and doesn't really ping like she was a good thing beaten for mine. She's obviously closing and the winner's stopping. And if she had won, I think she would have been a little bit flattered, if anything. But it is such a decent race. I don't want to be negative about her. Heady Heights has done a good job, really hard fit, had the fitness edge on all of these horses, and whacked away. This horse, Perfect Rhythm, is it? Perfect Rhythm, Perfect Rhyme. First up, can't knock it at all. Its effort was good, just not a sit sprinter, and the horses out the back, it's pretty hard to knock them either. Shazzy Lee really wants a fast run race. She didn't get it here, obviously. She didn't get the race she likes. She probably be interesting to see what they do with her. She's just got a few quirks. She's got a big motor, and I'd be forgiving of her. I'd be forgiving of most horses that are out the back, even in this sort of races where they've run along at a decent tempo. Race 8. Deploy was well backed here. I expected it to be outside the leader and thought it would be sort of desperate to get across early. It ends up getting the run, which it likes. That's a perfect 1-1 sort of horse. It's got a nice turn of foot. It shows it here. They run time off a slow tempo, gave the backmarkers absolutely no chance of running into it. And I think that just the second tier of horses were just a little bit underplayed here by a couple of spruik horses that do rely on a decent tempo and things to go their way. I was definitely a victim of falling into that a little bit. It wasn't, a huge betting race, but I did fall into Spectroscope and thought it was a little bit disappointing, even though it was given a fairly quiet ride. So probably the key for Deploy here is that Burning Passion's the first one across. Invaders looking for the sit, doesn't kick up, and Alluvian goes to the fence. All these things happen to make Deploy's race, and it lobs in that one out position. If it had been 3 wide, I doubt it wins. Just that first 200 metres really made the race for him. Burning Passion's run out of his skin for second. Virginian's put in the best effort it's put in for quite a while, the best of the back markers, and these two horses, Spectroscope and Ome, sort of sprinting hard, but obviously these horses are not stopping in any way, shape or form in front, and Invader's probably the least suited by this sort of tempo. He looks a bit more one-paced in a 1600 metre, 2000 metre horse. He's put in a great effort, and it just kills me to watch this horse elude. You're going around in 1200 metre races at this level, and it could be going back to 1000 in town, like provincials or even midweek, and destroying them. But anyway, that's stable's choice and owner's choice. So that's a good idea. Solid, but every chance. Same with Burning Passion, sat outside the leader. He's not his sort of setup, but he's run very, very, very well. Deploys just too solid from that position, and the Virginian maybe just peaked late, but a good effort. Ome saw getting to the line nicely late. Interesting to see where they go with her. Lucky last, and a perfect ride for a perfect horse suited by this sort of tempo. Improved obviously from that first up performance. Fitness wise, its effort wasn't that bad, I didn't think, first up, and I just expected Lion Couchant to want to kick up here and there'd be a head-to-head wind, and I didn't think they'd go that quick, and I thought things would not play into their hands. But as soon as that wind was so prevalent that it was helping, it was always going to be just like nearly impossible to beat this horse unless it stopped, unless there was something wrong with it. I was absolutely amazed by the backing for this horse. Clipper, I couldn't see how it could possibly win no matter what happened in the race. Lion Couchant runs a nice, honest race. This horse back here is flying. Last Witness, it gets up the fence for second. Gibraltar Girl out wide. Good effort also resuming. No knock on it whatsoever. I thought Arthur Moore's effort was really good first up for the new stable. He's just such an honest and talented horse, and it's good to see that he's come up for Alicia Bennett. I thought he might lose a few lengths going there, but he does seem to have come back really well, even though he is a horse that is still on the up and entitled to be in this sort of form. Good ride from Shin when it looked like here that Ty might try and kick up underneath him. He kept the pedal down, and again, very similar to Sweet Redemption, she's just built up this head of steam. She's fast, and she's, these horses cannot possibly run with the wind assistance. Like you look here, she's short the stride about here, 300 out, she looks like she's basically gone to me there, 200 out, and they never get near her, and that's simply because of the wind up her backside, and she's just a fast horse. But yeah, these two horses are good efforts. Last Witness and Gibraltar Girl. Obviously, Last Witness is cut up on the inside. It's a hard fit horse, so it was probably suited a little bit more than Gibraltar Girl, who's returned in good fashion. She obviously needs a few things to go her way to win races, and she's ready to win. Arthur Moore, I'm interested to see where they go with her. But the first four across the line are all racing really well. Didn't mind their effort of Wider Claim, just was drawn in the car park and very tough. Top Strike was a little bit disappointing. I heard Bowman say that it wants further. Sangiovese, I believe, bled, and that explains her performance, and Proconsul just totally unsuited by the conditions of the day. So all in all, I reckon there's some good form out of all this whole day to come. Like you'll going back over these races a few more times, you'll pick up some things. But I think there's some major winners of major races went around today, and there'll be some interesting plays next time out. It's just so weird this time of year to be having fast tracks to play with. This wind has just dried everything out, and they're playing nearly like summer tracks. And when you're getting winds at this time of year as well, the August winds, it's very interesting. So tough to set races up, but we'll get some good angles out of these sort of meetings. And looking forward to the rest of the spring unfolding. This is just the beginning, so it's good to see some good horses back, and looking forward to it. Thanks, guys.